and holding any beachhead. Another significant necessity was the logistical resupply, involving armor, food, fuel, ammunition, and transport. Past experience of beach landings had demonstrated the need to capture a medium-sized deep-water port, with its handling facilities intact. This was a tall order, but the Calais region boasted several such towns, including Dunkirk and Boulogne, and opened up the possibility of cargo ships sailing directly from the United States. Finally, there was a political dimension that would influence German thinking, but was unknown to the Allies. Adolf Hitler had often spoken publicly about his intention to unveil innovative new secret weapons that had a war-winning potential, and had intended a V-1 offensive for October 1943. But his scheme went awry through the intervention of Allied bombers that delayed Volkswagen's production of the Doodlebug missiles that were to be deployed in northern France in a ruthless terror campaign to flatten London. Thousands of these pulse-jet-powered weapons were to be catapulted against the city from the middle of June 1944, at a rate of 72 per day from 104 ramps. And the German High Command, OKW, anticipated that the scale of the air offensive would force the British War Cabinet to make the elimination of the launch sites an overriding strategic priority. Indeed, Hitler predicted at a staff conference that his secret weapons would generate enough political pressure to force Churchill from office. The Germans knew that there was very little to be done to prevent that V-1 from reaching the capital, and that there was absolutely no defense against the V-2 ballistic missile. By the end of the war, the British Civil Defence authorities had logged 5,823 flying bomb incidents, of which 2,242 landed on London, killing 6,184 civilians and 3,917 members of the armed services. A further 17,981 civilians and 1,939 servicemen were injured, and 23,000 homes destroyed. Hitler understood the strategic implications of allowing a beachhead to be gained, and on the 3rd of November 1943, he had issued Führer Directive 51 to prepare for what he saw as the coming Allied offensive. However, Field Marshal Rommel's preferred solution was a swift armoured counterattack mounted by some of the 10 panzer divisions already garrisoned in France. The Allies' master plan was devilishly complex, involving the embarkation of troops at 11 different south coast ports, from Falmouth in the west to Newhaven in the east, destined for the 5 designated beaches in Normandy. In recognition of what might go awry, they deployed 15 hospital ships, staffed by 10,000 doctors, and prepared 124,000 beds for potential casualties. When weighed objectively, taking into account all the relevant military and political considerations, it seemed obvious that if the Allies were to have the slightest chance of overwhelming Rommel's so-called impregnable Atlantic Wall, manned by 58 divisions of the 7th and 15th Armies, they would have to assemble in southeast England and rush across the Channel to Calais during the full moon, at high tide, perhaps relying on a diversionary attack elsewhere to draw the defenders in the wrong direction. Of course, we now know that the focus of D-Day was in Normandy, and that in the absence of any available ports, the Allies constructed 2 huge mulberry harbours off the beach, where the pontoons were protected by sunken block ships acting as breakwaters. Innovative engineers also designed and installed an underwater fuel pipeline codenamed Pluto, Pipeline Under the Ocean, laid on the sea floor from Nytten in the Isle of Wight to sustain the invasion vehicles, thus reducing the need for vulnerable tankers to make the long voyage from Plymouth or Southampton in seas likely to be infested by an estimated 125 U-boats. For many years, much secrecy surrounded the concept of strategic deception, but a series of disclosures in the 1970s revealed that a group of ingenious American and British planners had persuaded the Allied Supreme Commander, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, that a gamble on Normandy in preference